Hey guys, Sean here. Welcome to the F1 Word and to another of my end of season waffles, and this one is all about Ferrari. I mean, quite frankly, where do I start with this one? We heard over the winter, didn't we, that they were concerned about the lack of power from the engine in 2020, and there was even talk that the chassis wasn't all that great either. In fact, as early as January, news sources from Maranello claimed the SF1000 was, quote, worse than expected. However, despite all the doom and gloom, I did not for 1 second believe the season would go as badly as it did. I think I may have said pre-season that even if the car wasn't great, they'd still end up third at worst, but sixth, I never expected that. So, what did go wrong? Well, I think we all know, if I'm being generous, that something wasn't quite right about their power advantage last year, and whatever they had found in 2019 was no longer something they could use in 2020. And when you look at how much customer teams Haas and Alfa Romeo have struggled, it's pretty obvious the power unit was the biggest issue. It must be said, though, that Ferrari is confident the 2021 unit will be much better. Then again, it couldn't exactly be much worse. It wasn't all down to power, though. Mattia Binotto said earlier this year that the car also lacked aerodynamic efficiency, maybe due to the fact the SF1000 was designed around a more powerful engine. It was just a dreadful year pretty much all round. In 2019, Ferrari picked up a total of 504 points and finished second to Mercedes in the Constructors. 12 months later, their points tally is just 131, a staggering drop of 373, and they were sixth in the final standings. It is also the Scuderia's worst season since 1980 when they finished 10th, and on top of that, it's their first winless year since 2016. Frankly, it is not good enough for a team that has such huge resources at its disposal. Lauren McKees, Ferrari sporting director, said in Abu Dhabi, though, that whilst it may not show from the outside looking in, there were a lot of small achievements as the season progressed, and that one of the biggest takeaways was how the team stayed united and kept pushing hard despite the struggles they faced. All very nice, of course, but it's on track where the team will be judged, and Ferrari certainly cannot afford another year like 2020 anytime soon. One massive positive this year for Ferrari, though, was without doubt Charles Leclair. He clearly led that team and seemed to extract the absolute maximum he could from that car more or less every weekend. He comfortably beat his teammate, and despite dropping a couple of places in the standings after Abu Dhabi, given that car's problems, I think he's had a seriously strong season, and to finish in the top 8 is solid, again if you consider the lack of performance from that car. I've said it several times this year, but actually I think this was a better, or I suppose maybe a more impressive season for him than 2019. Sure, he won races last year, but that was in a car that was capable of doing so. To pick up a couple of podiums and several top 5 finishes in, at best, the 6th fastest car on the grid is stellar. It just showed that he has the speed and talent to deliver in a car that is below par, something we did actually see during his time at Alfa Romeo. In terms of stats, Leclerc picked up just shy of 75% of the team's points tally, outqualified his teammate 13-4, and overall outraced him 10-5, eventually finishing 65 points clear. It wasn't even close. There were a few negative moments in 2020, including wiping his teammate out in Styria, as well as some wild dives up the inside of other drivers, most notably and most recently at Sakir, where he hit Sergio Perez, and that is something he needs to work on, in the sense that he needs to be more calculated in his approach. It's a bit like what I said about Max Verstappen in 2018. I'm not saying he shouldn't be trying to make those moves. Of course, we want to see a level of aggression from all the drivers. He just very simply needs to do it without wiping people out. But I don't think those indiscretions, if you want to call them that, take much of the sheen off what was a very strong season, all things considered. As for Sebastian Vettel, though, what a terrible year he had. It all started really back in the spring when Ferrari decided his contract wouldn't be renewed, and he's just struggled all season with that car. Now, Vettel has previously said that he doesn't believe a specific characteristic of the car explains the deficit between himself and Leclerc this year, and has also dismissed talk that he is being given a fundamentally different car to his teammate. But I think we can all agree something wasn't quite right. In qualifying, Seb averaged a position of 12.23 with Leclerc at 8.29, and the German was also more than 2.5 tenths slower than his teammate on average on a Saturday. Things aren't any better when we look at race averages either, with Vettel at 10.4 and Leclerc 7. He also suffered 1 Q1 knockout, 13 Q2 eliminations, and only made it into Q3 on 3 occasions. That's staggering. I have never claimed to be an expert when it comes to these things, so I don't know what the issue has been. But Jonty did make a good point in the post-Abu Dhabi stream, where he said that Leclerc prefers to drive on the front of the car, whereas Vettel likes the rear, and the SF1000 appears to be a car that prefers to be driven on the front. And if I throw my theory in there, that kind of makes sense. I don't think Vettel has been deliberately sabotaged by Ferrari, I'm sure some do, but I don't. However, if he is leaving, it is only natural for the team to focus on developing that car for Leclair. He is, after all, the one that will be driving it next year, so what's the point building a car to suit a driver that's leaving? Yeah, I get the argument that teams want results from both drivers, but given that Ferrari ditched 2020 pretty early on, it's perfectly reasonable for them to work around Charles. So as a result, when upgrades are put on the car, they will suit Leclerc more than they will Vettel, and perhaps that's one of the reasons why it's been such a struggle in 2020 for him. I don't know, it is just a theory, and maybe we'll hear a little bit more over the winter. But one thing is for sure, 2020 was diabolical for him, and the only real bright moment was his podium in Turkey where he drove superbly well in very difficult conditions. I just hope that the move to Aston Martin next year gives him a chance to reset and get back to his best at a team where he's going to be under next to no pressure compared to what he and all drivers face at Ferrari. All in all though, aside from some of Leclerc's excellent performances, it was an absolutely awful year for Ferrari, and as I said earlier, given the resources at their disposal, that is pretty much unacceptable. It could well be a long way back, but there needs to be a big step forward in 2021, and 2022 has to be the focus if they want to start challenging for titles again. That is it for this one though. You can, as always, let me know your thoughts on Ferrari's season down in the comments section, and once again, how would you rate their year out of 10? Now, I will be back with some more ramblings about the 2020 season soon, but in the meantime, don't forget that you can of course follow me over on social media, and all of the links you need for that are in the description down below. But as ever, thank you for watching. I've been Sean, this has been the F1 Word, and until next time, goodbye.